Ladies and gentlemen, I have with us a very special guest today, a man who is very dedicated to his craft, a man that is not afraid to speak the truth and criticize any community, possibly one of the most hated black men on the internet, but unfortunately he is always proven right. An excellent debater, someone that tends to make me laugh during certain periods of time when I'm on Instagram. Please welcome Antoine Ford Twongola. Twongola, how are you doing with us? How are you doing today? I'm glad to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm doing good. Everything is good, God willing. The sun is beautiful out. It's a very nice day, and it's a very nice atmosphere for this conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you. I have a few questions I want to ask. I really want to get into this. So, with you as someone who is an intellectual, and you're very stoic, you're very calm in moments where you're thrown into the fire. When I watch your debates, we were talking about chimp outs earlier, and like I said, you know, like the meme where the monkey that's like, and then you see like the angry cat, like this panther or leopard. So talk to me, what really got you into this side of politics, debating with Afrocentrists, the Yourb0ysc0tty? Like, how did you really like get into all of this?
It's a great question, actually. That's a great first question. So, I guess I'll take it from the beginning. So I was actually active on social media back in 2020. I was a completely different person. I was a black nationalist. I was a George Floyd was innocent panderer. And I was kind of like this big believer in white supremacy, and I was this big believer in, you know, these 1960 Malcolm X talking points, not 1964 or 5 because he changed and he evolved, but really 1960, 61, like kind of like these Elijah Muhammad, Yacubian talking points, and I was kind of more aligned with that side. And that's like a part that a lot of people don't know about me. And, you know, I believe the Moors were all black, and my talking points were kind of like black people ruled Europe for 800 years, and I thought the first black people, or the first indigenous people in the Americas, you know, were black. Then I started to broaden my horizon. I started to broaden my scope. I started learning about genetics, haplotypes, single polynucleotide polymorphisms, or single whatever. I usually get that right. Guess I'm a little nervous. But haplotypes, genetic markers, a principal component analysis chart. It'll be able to like map you to a specific continent, right? So whenever you're looking at certain pieces of information that put Siberians and Native Americans in the same category, I had a cognitive dissonance when I tried to do that same thing with black people and Africans. I was like, wait, how is it that they have the same exact genetics? And then I started to embark on my journey, my intellectual journey, and I started to learn more things. Now, with the debates, a lot of people reached out to me because I was maybe updating some positions, changing some stances, and maybe they didn't know me back in 2020 because I really just started going crazy, I think in December. That was my first reel. I got like 1 million views or something like that in 2025. So there's a big gap there, so I'm assuming a lot of people don't know where I come from. They just probably think I'm a black kid that grew up in the suburbs around white people, and that's what's informing my politics, but they don't know that that's how I used to be. But I'm just putting out information because that's how I come to understand the truth, you know, because it's science. And then they're like, oh, it's just a white man's lie. It's just made up. And I'm like, okay, so you're taking away the ability for black men to contribute to the scientific apparatus. That's basically what you're saying. Science has to exist solely within a white sphere, if you will. And I don't subscribe to that ideology. I just think science is science. And you use the white man's science whenever it's convenient for your narrative. I don't understand that. The same science that you use that says Native Americans are from Siberia says you're also from Africa. So that obviously I'm going to have like, you know, an apprehension with believing in what you want me to believe. But sorry if that was like a long-winded answer.
No, I actually like that. That's actually so cool. I never knew that about you. You were like in that Yourb0ysc0tty leftist sort of group. But now you're more centered. You're not like right-leaning or left-leaning. You just say how it is. That's actually like a complete like 360. Holy shit, that's actually cool.
Yeah, and I used to consider myself a centrist. I just consider myself kind of like not in the middle of the two, but outside of it. If that makes sense. So like not in the middle of like both, like trying to play tug of war, but just looking from an outside perspective. As somebody who used to lean more towards, I guess, if you want to say,
like that realm.
Upholding white supremacy. Upholding white supremacy, black supremacy, liberalism, conservatism. I've been through it all. So now I would call myself, if you want me to give you an ist or an ism, a realist. I would say a realist. So not a centrist, but like a realist. That would probably be the best descriptive term to categorically place me somewhere.
I actually like that. All right, so like it kind of reminds me of during COVID when I saw like black people saying that the white man is the greatest threat to them. But we saw a bunch of black people burning down black businesses because of George Floyd riots. We saw that he was resisting arrest, but we didn't get to see that footage. The media knows how to create racial tension. It reminds me, I was on a podcast back then, before my views started to change. A lot of my friends growing up were white. Like when I was around black people, I felt very out of place. And that's not to say, hey, I don't like black people. It's just I feel like the white duckling. I know that sounds weird, that terminology, but like I'm like the white duckling, the ugly duckling. I just feel like I'm foreign when it comes to most black people because the way I talk, my interests, my passions, you know what I mean? I'm like an out-of-pocket white guy in a black guy's body. That's kind of like how I see myself. Transracial during COVID, that's what they called it. But what I noticed with that is when I talked with black people about certain issues, they were almost dismissive, right? It's always someone else's fault. And kind of like what you said before, when you were talking about the white man's science, no, science is just science. Because the same white man's science that they hate, they use that when it comes to certain studies to prove their arguments to be right. But in reality, it ends up burying themselves. Why? Right? Because when you look at IQ, Ashkenazi Jews and even East Asians have a higher IQ than whites. So, like these Afrocentrists say, if white people believe they're superior, wouldn't they have the highest IQ? Wouldn't Ashkenazis and East Asians have a lower IQ? Wouldn't they try to hide that? So this whole white people are racist, but black people have this like racial hierarchy way of thinking, this sort of like inferiority complex, where they constantly talk about white people. Like you'll see on TikTok, black people will complain about white people. Black people will make fun of white people for hiking or just making a face or saying, hey, how are you? Why does like being kind have to be a white people thing? What's wrong with the black person wearing a suit and tie or being well informed or being well groomed? Why does everything good have to be white and everything bad have to be black? Why is it always slavery that's blamed for that when in fact slavery, I'd argue it more happens today a lot in sub-Saharan Africa, right? I mean, when we look at slavery back then, obviously slavery is horrible, the owning of another human being, I don't agree with it. But I'm not going to complain, my ancestors were property, I'm not. I have rights, I have free will. You know what I mean? So to openly blame and hate on white people for every issue and aspect of my life, how am I supposed to take accountability and grow as a person? You know what I mean?
100%. So the first thing you said, I'll take it piece by piece. You brought up the riots, right? That's a great point because when we look at like Black Wall Street, maybe somebody can fact check me. I don't know if you have a computer in front of you, but the property damage with Tulsa, I think it was $20 to $30 million. That's like a rough estimate. But if we look at the George Floyd riots, it was like $1 billion in damage. And if we look at the concentrated areas where it happened, it was mostly black areas. So that's something that a lot of people don't talk about as well. If we're talking about black on black homicides versus school shootings, first of all school shooters are not white. But let's say for the sake of conversation, all school shooters are white. Let's just say that. There have been, in the last 30 years, 500 deaths from school shootings. If you isolate 1 year with black on black deaths, I think it's 2022 in particular, it was like 14,000, around 300 deaths. Now if you put everything in the same time, 30 years, it's like 500,000 deaths. So you're taking 500 deaths and comparing it to like 500,000. Then when you give that piece of information, people are going to talk about colonialism. They're going to talk about, and then it's just going to go back and forth endlessly, and it's just going to make everything worse, I think, socially. But it's an important distinction to make because that's usually the pivot whenever we're talking about black on black homicide. So now if we're just in this conversation, we're like having a meta conversation, you know what I mean? Like we're having a conversation outside of what's important, and we just keep pivoting and shifting.
It's always he said, she said, pointing fingers.
Yeah. Exactly. And I like to focus on the problems of today in 2026 and onward whenever anybody's seeing this video. I like to focus on what's socially relevant today. And we have two groups. White people are the majority of the population, so numerically they're going to be a majority of the crimes. Black people, they're committing a wildly disproportionate crime.
To the point where they're overrepresented.
Right.
Yeah.
So both are problems in two different ways. And I personally, my only issue isn't crime, it's also cultural attitudes. It's the teen takeovers, you know what I mean? If there are instances of like sundown towns happening, because I've talked to some black people and I'm trying to be a little bit more empathetic to their plight and how they grew up. Like, I talked to Fanatic, I don't know if you know who that is, and he said his mom grew up in a time period where, there was redlining, there was like this case against this bank where they were denying black people mortgages, and it was like actually proven. So I try to
be more understanding.
Yeah, because it's easy for me, somebody who, we've traced our lineage to the 1500s, it's like Spanish conquistador. It's very dense, like black Spanish conquistador, and like it's all been mapped. And we weren't enslaved, so there's a different cultural attitude. As a result of not being enslaved, there's going to be less European admixture, which was a product of like, GRAP, we'll just say grape. And we're just going to have differences, right? But I'm trying to put myself in other people's shoes and see if there can be a generational effect. I do think there can be. However, I still believe in self-determinism. I still believe in, I understand how you got here in this hole, but you also have to try to get yourself out of it too, because what is like left of black people to say 100 years ago this neighborhood in Oklahoma was burned down, so you're just never going to try to progress again, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just a sad, pathetic like mindset, you know what I mean? And it really hurts. I understand black people have been through a lot, but I feel like I'd argue that racial tension has been purposefully created between whites and blacks. They want them to hate each other.
100%.
If that makes sense, yeah. Because even when I look at like Ashkenazi Jewish communists like Stanley Levison, we've seen the Negro, and excuse me for my words, but the Negro being used for public gain. It's easy to trick a lot of black people. You tell them what they want to hear. It's kind of like when a black guy beats the shit out of a white chick, right? You tell her what she wants to hear. White chicks are easy. And I tell a lot of white chicks, because I'm not saying every black guy is bad and doesn't have class. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I am saying, like, a YN versus a black man with class, the YN knows, okay, I know how to get pussy. You know what I mean? I just have to tell her what she wants to hear, and then, boom, I give her dick. And a lot of women will complain, well, I hate men. Well, what type of men are you dating? And I'm not even putting race into it, but I am going to talk about the fact that, well, women tend to fall in love with what they hear, and I'd argue also what they see. I think some women prefer to have a narcissistic asshole rather than a guy that actually cares about them. That's a whole other topic. But I'm like, man, maybe I should just be a Negro Genghis Khan, you know what I mean? Maybe I need to start hitting women. Maybe I get some result. No, I'm kidding. But like, I just like to mess with people. But we see from an emotional standpoint, I guess the point I'm trying to get at is that when it comes to minorities, specifically in the black community and also women in general, it's easy to convince them and use them for political agenda by getting to their emotions, if that makes sense.
100%. Yeah, I mean, with women in relationships, honestly, there has to be a balance, if I'm being completely objective here. They don't necessarily want you to beat the shit out of them, but they do want you to be... I think women have been guided away from their, I guess, natural role, which is not necessarily like, I don't want to use the word submissive, but I guess more passive, and they align more with a masculine authority. But it's natural. It's not something that you have to force. It's actually something that's very subtle. If you're a man and you have good qualities, good characteristics, if you have a good temperament, a woman is naturally going to look at you and trust you. That's a big thing. And you won't have to yell at her like, bitch, clean up your stains on my drawers. I was like, throwing a plate in her head and all that. She'll naturally just want to align with what you're saying. Because think about it like this. If you're going to see a music artist, do you go see them perform because they told you, hey, nigga, you better go check out this shit or else I'm going to do this to you? Or is it because they're putting
naturally
out qualities that you admire?
Yeah.
Right. So that's how I look at it, honestly. So you have to obviously treat them with respect and be kind to them always.
Oh, absolutely.
Until they disrespect you. And then
you put the foot down.
Obviously, you have to remind them. Yeah.
Then Tyrone comes out. Then the draws get washed. No, I'm kidding. But like, I don't hate women or anything. I'm not coming off as an incel. I just like to be out of pocket and just throw things around. But like,
a little hyperbolic.
Yeah. I'm a little wild out there. But like, I guess the thing is, like, what I'm trying to say really with women is that I feel like a lot of them now, a lot of men are weak. Right, we see that testosterone rates are lower. We see our food is literally poisoned in chemicals and pesticides and like weed killer.
Atrazine.
Atrazine shit's in our water too. And we see Adam's apples decreasing, right? We see men literally skinnier. You know, they look fresh off the boat. But like, I'm trying to get that. I'm trying to build, But with a lot of...
Yeah, I checked myself. I was like, how am I looking?
A lot better than me. Got some for
me. Thank you.
But like with a lot of women, it's kind of like there was this one guy, I think his name is Generation Z. I forget the name of his Instagram account, but he talked about like people on the streets and women. And I feel like with a lot of women, a lot of them aren't valued, loved, and protected and don't know what masculinity really is. They've tricked themselves into believing that the abnormal is normal and the normal is abnormal. So what do I mean by that? Well, they think that like high intense situations where there's arguments, where there's abuse, where there's substance surrounding them, they have convinced themselves in their minds that's normal.
Yes.
Right? They've convinced themselves that a man hitting them is normal, which is not. It's not right to take out your emotions on a woman. You know, I like to make jokes on my Instagram reels, like when I post, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you sound too white." So then I gotta let the black side pop out and make jokes about domestic abuse and baby mamas in the next video. Then they're too black for this video. So like, I like to joke around with people in my comments, but
I imagine you have fun with that because you're literally biracial.
Yeah.
I try to act in any accordance with proximity to whiteness. I'm just a coon, but they're gonna be like, I mean, that nigga light skin.
Dude, I get honorary Aryan in my comments. I'm like, guys, that's not why I'm doing this. I'm racist for the love of the game. I love making fun of everybody. It's just some groups you target more than others because it gets views, and I get to make people laugh. I make black people laugh. Niggers threaten to kill me. And that's what sucks because, like, you and Andre Williams are right. Because when you talk about issues in the black community, you could be well-spoken, kind of like what Charleston White said. And I'm not the type of person who always agrees with Charleston White, but a broken clock is, at least right twice a day. And I look at that, and when he was dressed in all orange, he was on Cam Newton's podcast, or I'm not sure if it was his podcast, but he was on a show with him or something. I saw some clips. He was like, I gotta talk like them rappers you listen to. Now y'all motherfuckers, I got your attention. And the way he spoke, it's like he stooped down to their level. You know what I mean? It kind of goes back when people think white good, black bad. It's sad. You know what I mean? It really does like break my heart. And when we see black people have an inferiority complex on TikTok, they can't stop talking about white people. They have to make white people the embodiment of their life. A lot of white people I hang out with don't really want trouble. You know what I mean? You're going to have retards on Instagram that comment, nigger, this is disgusting, don't mix dirt with snow. But that's another topic I wanted to get into with whites and blacks. Gen Xers are retarded. Andre Williams has touched on this, and these are the same black men that'll call me a coon and threaten to kill me, but he's fucking a white woman. You know what I mean? Andre Williams isn't a coon, he's married to a black woman. You know what I mean? Yeah. So how is he a coon and sellout? He loves the black community, and same with you. You love the black community, and you want to call them out for the BS. You want to get straight to the point. Why is it always insults rather than having an educated conversation? Why is it always going after the way you look, present yourself, and dress? You know what I mean? This colonial mindset really, it's sad to see, right? Because the brightest minds of the black community, a lot of them, at least in the mainstream, tend to be turned off from black women and tend to marry white women. We've seen that with athletes. We've seen that. I'd argue a lot of black men I've met who train in MMA, a lot of them go for white chicks. You know, I mean, John Jones, Demetrius Johnson, Jalen Turner. There are plenty of black men in the MMA community that they seem to go for that white woman, right? So, and it really does make me sad because when I saw Andre make a video, he said it's important for the black man to deal with the dysfunction in his community rather than run to another and bring your dysfunction onto them. So I think that was very well said on his part. How do you feel about race mixing and the retard Gen Xers that are hypocrites? Like, what are your thoughts behind that?
What'd you say about immigrants? What's the last thing you said?
Oh, yeah. So I said, what are your thoughts on race mixing and your thoughts on, like, the retarded Gen Xers, if that makes sense?
Oh, I thought you said immigrants. I don't know why. Okay, so, yeah, Andre saying that also coincides with something Malcolm X said, I believe in 63 or 64, where he said black people have to fix their own issues before trying to live amongst other people. In terms of race mixing, listen, if I were against it, I would be denying the existence of probably like 90% of people. Everybody in some way, shape, or form is a product of race mixing.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you're talking about like moving forward, I mean, it depends on my agenda. If I were a, white nationalist, I would obviously be against race mixing because of the negative implications. If I were a black nationalist, I would be against race mixing. If I were a liberal, I would not have a problem with it. I guess my views would have to be like, okay, broadly speaking, I don't have an intense issue with you living in your sovereignty. So if you are a population and you want to have just white people living with you and you only want to mix with white people, I feel like you should fully be allowed to do that. You shouldn't be labeled or anything like that. If you're black, if you're Native American, if you're Hispanic, if you're Indian, if you're any of these groups, I feel like you should have the ability to do that. But if you want to marry somebody that's a different race from you, I'm just not convinced that that's wrong either. If you guys love each other, if you guys are productive, if you guys are, trying to, sorry, there's black people running around. If you guys are trying to grow together and the relationship isn't pernicious and it's not detrimental and it's good, then I don't see a problem with it.
No, I agree. And I guess the thing is with race mixing, I don't like how it's lust over love a lot of the times when I see it. I feel like a lot of the times it could be for the wrong reasons. Now, am I going to look at someone and say, ew, nasty? Ancestors would be disappointed. No, I wouldn't do that. I think that's rude. And I didn't like how Handsome Truth went about it. I think he could be funny, but coming up to kids and screaming mud shark to their mother, I don't think it's the best. They're kids. They didn't ask to be there. Now, if you want to make fun of... Yeah, I don't agree with that. If you want to make fun of stupid white chicks for shitting on white men and getting plowed and getting knocked up and ending up single mothers, okay, the Instagram comments can go wild. You're making fun of an adult. I don't really care about that. Now, it's just... a lot of Hispanics tend to be mixed anyways. They'll have North African ancestry, Sub-Saharan. They'll have ancestry in East Asia. They're basically melting pots. They're basically race mixing no matter who they have sex with.
Exactly.
Yeah, what's the fucking point, really? They could be Arab, Ashkenazi Jew, Sephardic Jew. The Spaniards mixed with different Jewish groups as well, too. So, there was a lot of rape, especially that happened in South America, too. But, and the Caribbean is just a whole melting pot anyway, so good luck. But with whites and blacks, obviously white people might have a little bit of Cherokee admixtures in there. Sometimes they could have a little Ashkenazi Jew if they're German or Russian. That's normal. Even black Americans could have Ashkenazi Jew admixtures. It's normal.
Don't let Projax here. You say that Germans can be mixed with Jewish.
They won't like it, but that is common. It's more common than people think. Yeah.
They'll probably be okay with it. I'm just having some fun.
He wouldn't be a huge fan of that, I know, but he'd have a face of disgust. I can already imagine Forrest being all like, "You're Jewish?" Ugh. I can imagine this thing.
Sometimes I'll fuck around in the stream and I'll be like, "Isn't Forrest literally a Nigerian Jew?" And he'll tell people like, "I'm Jewish." Like, they can fuck around every now and then. I feel like Jackson is kind of like having cultural fatigue a little bit more. I think it's visibly weighing on him more. Where like the last conversation we were all in, some black guy was like, Jackson chill, and Jackson was like, nah,
I ain't about that shit, man. Yeah. I wonder, I'd like to talk to them because they're interesting. Let's say they do their deports and, they have a white takeover. You said earlier, It's not that I disagree with your statement, because statistics do say that whites are the majority, but like you have to also take into consideration, even on a U.S. census. Okay, if I pull up that data, we've seen.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
people
you know where
are
I'm going.
considered white. Yeah,
We're
that's
non-whites
true.
identify as white, right? We'll have
Yeah.
Hispanics that identify as white. We'll have people that are mixed race. I could identify as white. That sounds crazy,
Yeah.
but I could.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I
That's
could
a good
commit a
point.
crime. You know, let's say I steal some petroleum jelly and Oreos. A white culprit stole this, and then people would look at that. They know that's bullshit, obviously. But like,
Good point. Thank you for reminding me of that. And then I guess to further that, I would also have to talk about the 1350. A lot of that 50, those are arrest rates. Those aren't convictions, and there are
True.
the exonerations. So I think we have to do more research on both sides of the spectrum. 100%.
yeah, because it's like you could be. I mean, I highly doubt North Africans commit a lot of crime in America, but when they come to America, they're considered white. Same thing with Arabs; they're labeled as white. Afghan men were just considered Asian men not too long ago, right? Same thing with Central Asian men. A few years ago, they didn't really have a category. Now they're considered Asian, although some are Turkic, some are Mongolian, Persian. You know, Central Asian people are just mixed in general. They're a huge melting pot as well. But
Would you consider North Africans white? Because I know they cluster with Caucasoid broadly, but I don't know if you would say they cluster with European populations. Like when you zoom in, it's the same thing with Jews. Like
Yeah.
Jews are 30 to 60% European. Ashkenazi Jews are 30 to 60% European. But even though they're mixed with like Middle Eastern populations, if we're zooming out
yeah,
of Europe and we're just talking about like Caucasoid, even though these are
like areas in
African-
Georgia. No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, like they do cluster, like Jews cluster
Yeah.
with Caucasus in the same way North Africans do. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Well, that's interesting because North Africans, I've always considered them complex, right? So when you, let's say I go to Tunisia, there's going to be a woman that looks Greek. There's going to be a person that's Turkish, Greek Muslim. But with that said, you look at these people, the Anatolian farmers came, Neolithic groups, Paleolithic groups, is that how I say it? I want to make sure I'm...
Yeah.
So you have like groups like from the Caucasus, like the Dazuana peoples, right? Could they have white admixtures? You also have to remember Morocco was a Spanish colony too, so some can have Spaniard and Portuguese admixtures. But to say that to be classified as white, man, I mean they have Western Asian ancestry too. I'd honestly consider them nuts at that point. Like,
Okay.
yeah, like I consider them like quad racial or even more than that, to be honest. Like obviously they're not black. They'll have 2%, 10% admixtures. They're not white either because they also have like Middle Eastern ancestry. But then again, if you look at in the Middle East, some of them are closer to Europeans than someone like Nick Fuentes, who is 25% Amerindian DNA. So I mean, I guess to answer your question, I guess North Africans are white-ish. Like you can clearly distinguish them from like a white American male or female. They're white-ish. They're mixed. Does that really
It's
answer your
interesting because the Khoisan South Africans are fully indigenous black and they're around your color.
Yeah.
And then you have Nilotic people who are like the color of my shirt. And there's a spectrum of skin color, and they're obviously distinct phenotypically, but they're both just as black as each other genetically.
Yeah.
And I guess that wouldn't be a perfect comparison because, like you said, North Africans tend to be mixed with maybe some sub-Saharan and maybe some Asiatic, but
Anatolian
I
and
would
all
say
that stuff.
Yeah. If we're looking at a principal component analysis chart, this is the best way I could conclude something, right? If we're just looking at it strictly on a chart. If you're 51% of a certain race, if you wanted to just zoom zoom completely out, I guess whatever you are, that is at 51%. So if you're 51% sub-Saharan, technically, I guess if you're looking at the chart, the PCA chart, you would just be black. You would just be sub-Saharan, I guess. That's how I would say. Obviously, you would be mixed, but if we're just talking about where to place you categorically, like let's say you wanted to do a scientific remigration. That would be probably the easiest way to do it. Hopefully, I'm not giving them some tips. But I guess that would be the best way to do it. So somebody like me who's like 70% sub-Saharan or something like that, it's obviously overwhelmingly going to be shipped off there despite the American history and all that shit. Like my genetics would fuck me in that regard. But for you, Have you ever taken an ancestry test? You said you needed
I
one, right?
did, but I'm gonna take a new one that compares my DNA to ancient and modern populations because I feel like Ancestry and 23andMe are kind of fucked up. I think they're weird.
Can I see your ancestry? That would be really cool.
Yeah, I have like 3 different results because they're constantly changing the genes and updating the database. So I'm gonna look it up right now. I sent it to a friend because my genetics are like weird. Because it's like, okay, maybe her second Instagram account is what I sent it to. It's so weird and fascinating. Okay, so here were my first set of results. So
Okay. I'm gonna write it down as you're saying it, or you could send it to me and I'll look at it too.
yeah, so I was making a joke. I said, good to see certain genes getting colonized. So I looked. I'm not sure if you can see it.
Send it to my phone and I could look at it. Like
yeah, I could send it to you. Yeah, I could send it to your IG.
That's pretty cool.
It's so weird because oh shit, it said failed to send message. All right, I'll screenshot it and then send it to you. So Instagram is mad retarded, man. But yeah, so I was looking at the results, and it's constantly changing. It's like bipolar. It's like the last girlfriend I had. Like every single time, it's like it's something different. All right, excellent. All right,
that sounds like every girlfriend.
Every woman's bipolar at this point, but
yeah,
let's see.
They got a little bit of that in them.
But like, I'm gonna read it to you. So it said Eastern European and Russian 6%, Scotland 6%, Mali 4%, Ireland 4%, Senegal 3%, Sweden and Denmark 3%, Cameroon, Congo, and Western Bantu peoples 1%. It said Norway 1%, Benin and Togo 17%, Baltics 14%, so like Lithuanian, Latvian, Estonian. You know that. You're very intelligent in this regard. So England and Northwestern European 12%, Wales 8%, Ivory Coast and Ghana 7%, Nigerian 7%, Germanic European 7%. And that's what my DNA test looked like when I first took it in 2023. Now Ancestry did some bullshit where they changed it, so I'll show you what my results look like now.
The picture you sent me is the most recent one?
That was the first set of results I got when I first took the test.
Okay.
So then I made a joke. I said, I'm getting whiter. I got those white dad calves. I posted it on my Instagram. And literally, I see 27% Germanic European. I'm like, what the hell? I was 7% like in 2023. What the hell happened there? Yeah. Weird, right? Like Ancestry's losing their shit. So it said 27% Germanic European, 17% Benin and Togo, 13% Baltics, 8% England and Northwestern Europe, 7% Central West Africa, 7% Russian. So, and then it says 1% Cornwall. I think that's like Welsh and stuff. I'm not sure specifically. And then it says 1% Scottish. Then it says 2% Ivory Coast and Ghana, 2% Nigerian, 2% Norwegian, 2% French, 2% Irish, and 1% Mali. So 1 second, like the first time I took the DNA test, it said 3% Swedish and Danish. Now I'm not Swedish and Danish, it just says Norwegian. So I'll show you the latest test, or I'll say it to you, then I'll send you the results.
Okay. I can explain why the percentages changed too. Yeah. So I want to look it up, but to my understanding, basically the ancestry tests work by comparing your DNA to large reference.
Like the cross-reference. Oh, okay.
Exactly. Of people whose families have like lived in these regions for like a bunch of generations. So like obviously with your DNA segments looking similar to people from the African populations. I forgot what it was specifically. Did you have like Nigerian?
I had like West and Central, so yeah, Nigerian, Ghana, Congo, stuff like that.
Got you. So like human populations have a lot of overlap. Like somebody might have DNA that's like 60% similar to one region and 55% similar to another. So like different updates classify it differently. And like the small percentages are like the most unstable. It's very weird. So like if you get something that's single digits, it can either disappear, grow,
something new can come out of it.
Say again?
Or something even new can come out of it. Like shit I've never seen in there before.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like improving a map when you have like more understanding of it. So like you could have like an ancient world map from like the 1300s. It probably looks like shit compared to what we have now.
Yeah.
So it's really getting more accurate, which is a fascinating thing about science. It's like not rigid, it's malleable, and I'm here for the journey, honestly, with science. It's like whatever I believe in now, if it comes out tomorrow that it's wrong, I'm willing to update that. It's a little annoying because it's like, what do we trust? But at the same time, it's like I'm here for the journey. You know?
Yeah, I love updates once in a while. You know what I mean? I like accuracy. I think my last set of
annoying after a while, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's just weird because now I'm like 1% Portuguese. I'm like, shit, we was conquistadors and shit. I'm a rape baby. Like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? So it's like, because I look at the results again, and it says Benin and Togo 17%. This is the third time they changed, by the way. Central West Africa 7%, Senegal 4%, Yorubaland 3%. So Ivory Coast and Ghana 2%, Nigerian 2%, Mali 1%, Lithuanian 20%. And the crazy thing is they put Lithuanian, Baltic, and Eastern European DNA in the same category. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? So Central Scotland and Northern Ireland 10%, hybrids in Western Highlands, Scotland 5%. Northwestern Germany 7%, Southern Germanic Europe 6%, 1% French. Then I get Southeastern England and Northwestern European 8%, Devon and Somerset 3%, Denmark 1%, Norway 1%, Western Bantu peoples 1%, and then I get 1% Portuguese, like out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know who knocked up who raped who. But you know what I mean? I'm like, that Portuguese, like someone was colonized from the inside. I can tell you that much.
It seems like almost your entire genetic makeup is like a product of that. Not to sound insensitive, but like, yeah, it's a lot going on there.
Yeah, my genetics are retarded or something. So
I think your DNA actually closely resembles the genetic composition of most Black Americans that are FBA. Are you FBA, by the way? Are you like a product of the slave trade and everything like that?
So my ancestors were brought to Grenada, so I think my DNA would be slightly different from average Black Americans.
Yeah, because of the Lithuanian too. Especially.
Yeah. Because I'm not, I guess, like your average Black American. I guess technically, according to Black people, I'm not technically a Black American since my ancestors weren't enslaved here. You know, they were enslaved in the Caribbean.
Are you a first generation?
So my mom moved here in the 80s before Cuba invaded Grenada and America came and, you know, helped them. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do some math right now with your African and European.
Because I'm like 63% European and like 37% Sub-Saharan African. I think that's how it would work.
Wow.
It's really weird.
So Benin and Togo 17%.
Yeah.
Ivory Coast and Ghana 7. Nigeria 7. Mali 4. Senegal 3. Cameroon 1. So that's like 39-40% African. And then like the rest Baltic 14, 12, 8, 7, 6.
Yeah, the DNA test was literally bipolar. I looked at the results. Like constantly they're updating it. They put the Germanic categories and the Slavic categories. They combined the Baltic and Slavic categories, which I understand some people in Europe will be Baltic and Slavic. Soviet Union, Slavs, you know, mixed with different groups. Some people could be Mongolian and Russian when you're in areas like, I guess, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and stuff.
Wow.
So, I mean, I guess like that's why my DNA is like all over the place.
Yeah, it seems like you're majority white.
Yeah, literally. Like, and it makes sense. My mom's mixed. She had red hair as a kid. She's part Welsh and Nigerian, Congolese, and Ghanaian, I believe. So.
That's very likely because most Black Americans are not even fully Black, and a lot of white Americans
they're like
are
24% white on average. It was a 2014 study, I think.
Yep.
They're almost a quarter white. Usually, for the most part.
So, like, you do look distinct from other mixed race people that are like Black and white. You do look a little distinct. I can see the Slavic kind of. It's a little Slavic looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got those angular features. For me, like, it's basically like I guess the best way to put it is like Afro-Asiatic, I would say, but just Black with Asian, maybe. I don't know. It depends on who I'm asking. It depends on what time of the year it is. In the winter time with the long hair, we could say Blasian, but in the summer with the short hair and the big nose, we'll just say Black with some shit in the background. But that's pretty fascinating. My DNA. Let me see. I could probably pull it up actually. I've never actually talked publicly about my ancestry. Let me see if I have it. I know a lot of people are curious. Okay. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. So, number 1, Bantu Africa and Niger Congo. So 27%. So that's like Nigeria. And then it declines in Senegal, Gambia, and Kenya. Number 2, Senegal and Gambia, 17%. Number 3, Madagascar, 16.9%. Number 4, Tuva. I think that's like in southern Siberia. And it like fades out in North Mongolia, I think.
That's cool.
Number 5.
That's actually really cool. You got that Genghis in you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Number 6 is Fennoscandia, so that's like Icelandic people. I guess that's why I'm so fucking strong. I'm 6'4", so maybe that little bit of whiteness helped me.
A little
you
bit
know
of
what's funny? Guess what comes after the Fennoscandia at 5.3%?
Now I gotta hear
African Pygmy at 4.8%. So they're like
fighting each other.
I don't know what's going on there. And then number 8 was Western Siberia at 2.9%, specifically in this region called Krasnoyarsk Krai, and then it kind of fades out towards eastern Russia. Number 9 was Northwest Africa at 2.7%, so Algeria,
Mauritania,
and then fades in Morocco. Number 10 was like Spain, 2.6. So that's how we got here. So I'm assuming maybe before my black Spaniard ancestors got here, one of them a while ago probably were living amongst the Moors, who were majority Arab and
Amazigh,
yeah. They probably fucked like a Spaniard woman or something like that. 11 Orkney Islands. So that's like the Orkney Islands. Where is that?
I have
Would
no
that
idea.
be like by England? I actually don't know.
Because there's Faroe Islands, there's Jersey, Guernsey. I'm trying to think of all my islands here.
Yeah, I sent this shit to Frojax, and they didn't know anything about the Orkney Islands or Fennoscandia, so...
so maybe somewhere in the Nordic world it could be in.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Then I had Ethiopia at 2.2%. And then I had France at 1.7%. And then I had Levant, Israel, at 0.7%.
It's very fascinating, like it really is, because when you have DNA that goes like everywhere, and when you look at the concept of identity, no one is like 100% of something unless you've been inbreeding or doing some retard shit for the past hundreds of years, like that family that's like all blue down south.
And my father is pretty dark. My mom is light skinned like you, so I'm somewhere in the middle. I guess you would call me a brown skin, not like a dark skin like Akon.
So we're like the avatars between like white and Negro. You know what I mean? We're just like holding balance. But like, I really liked getting deep into these topics because it's like, for me, like, pain is more real than the people who love you, right? Like, pain is something that doesn't lie to you. And when I look at the content you and Andre make, you guys are right, but it sucks to be right, because people always prove you right. The dysfunction, rather than having respect for debates, always has to be swearing, and you and Andre are just like sitting there just laughing, or like being calm and cool and collected, and it's like, fuck man, this kind of sucks. Like, this is a sad reality. Like, how do we get out of it? How do we change? I do like seeing like the racial unity, like when I see you and Frojax, right? And I see Forrest over there, Hurting Murphy, whatever you want to call him. I do like seeing you collab with people. It gives me hope in a way.
Yeah, those are my boys.
Yeah, I love that.
A lot of people hate me for that, but they're always respectful to me. Whenever they go on stream, a lot of their fans know me, and they'll be like, W Twan, like, where's Twan? They'll mention me, and they have nothing but positive things to say about me. So
that's beautiful.
I teach them a lot. They say we always have good ideas. It's always a good conversation, and the videos are funny. I gotta admit, like,
they're definitely something.
Yeah, like whether I'm in a debate with them and somebody else, or if I'm just watching it, like, I love the videos.
Yeah, I really do love it. It's just like, I liked how we were able to cover the topics, like the Gen Xers, the race mixing, really getting in deep with it, and even like sharing our DNA results. I thought was really fascinating. So, But
yeah, that was pretty sick.
I guess
I wouldn't have assumed you were 60% European though, but like I guess you have the face for it. You're just a little tan, and then you have
and then the hair. So like it confuses a lot of people. But when they look at my bone structure, like I have people say honorary Aryan, you have Anglo-Saxon bone structure. And I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then I get a whole
Frojack. They told everybody I'm the #1 honorary Aryan. I look like sub-Saharan as fuck. Like I don't have any white features at all.
Yeah.
So.
It's hilarious, dude. Like, holy shit. And I guess one thing I wanted to ask, two things actually. I'll make it quick. My laptop's about to like die on me. Fucking Chromebook, man. Government assistance type laptops. But I guess like two things. Number one, I liked how you and I were able to talk it down. But why do you think black people and white people, it's always liberal whites and like black people that think they know what's best for mixed people? Why not hear mixed people's stories? Why is it like, hey, you're black, let me ignore my white side, but then I feel out of touch with black people for the most part? So why is it like to only recognize one side? And I understand you answered it perfectly in a video. You were saying that, hey, if you're mixed race, you're basically a lighter black. You're black, you're just lighter, right? So how do you view like a mixed person as me? Like if you were to put me in a category, like what would I be? Like I think I kind of have the answer, but.
Well, I prefer for people to find their own destiny and their own belonging and their own alignment. But like if I'm looking at you genetically, I would say you are. I would just say you're what would that be called, a mulatto? I know mestizo is indigenous and white, but black and white, do they still use mulatto? I would say you're mulatto. You're like blue vein. You would be like Malcolm X-esque. You would be like Bob Marley-esque. That's like the blue vein society. I would say you cleanly fit into those people. And I think you guys need to establish your own identity. And not to say this in an insulting way, but a lot of light-skinned people, they're like, am I white or am I black? I think you guys should call yourself your own distinct group like Latinos do, because Latinos could argue endlessly, am I indigenous or am I European? And it would be a valid question, but like it's not really going to get you anywhere because you're not really either of those things, you know what I mean?
I'm just a cluster. Yeah,
it's like what do colors make purple? Is it blue and
red and blue?
I mean red and blue. Right, so it's like you're not going to say like, oh, am I red or am I blue? You're just purple now. So that's the best way.
It's kind of like with black and white. Like you have, with white, you have the combination of colors. With black, you have the absence of color. Both make gray, you know? So It's really interesting because I've always said, oh, I'm mixed. I'm both. You know what I mean? Because look at me. I'm obviously not white, but I'm not fully black. I'm just there.
Exactly.
You know, just sitting there. So there was one video I wanted to show you by John Doyle when you brought up redlining, because it's so weird with John Doyle, because there would be moments where his videos are informing because I look up the sources after. But it's really hard, I guess, to find people in the right space to trust, or even left in general. I'm not right or left leaning, but I feel like our education system has lied to us so much to the point where people rely on Instagram and TikTok more than, you know, their actual education system in textbooks, which is sad. But you can be like incited and learn from it. I'm not saying to rely on Instagram; that'd be ridiculous for everyday life. But I did think this video was interesting. I wanted to play it actually, and I want you to tell me your thoughts on it. Because I'm not doubting redlining was real, but I feel like I said, racial tension was forced between blacks and whites, even if you see Shadow Jackson's documentary. So I'm going to play it.
John Doyle actually...
Oh, wait, fuck. Wrong video. There's the one where he talked about redlining. And that's... Okay, here we go.
Okay. Kind of exposing black history because it just didn't even happen. So we've all heard about redlining, right? The evil racist policy where banks drew a bunch of red lines around black neighborhoods so they couldn't get loans, they'd be trapped in poverty forever. This is the go-to example of systemic racism. It explains everything from wealth gaps to urban decay. It's all over the media, it's taught in schools. Well, it turns out it's just a lie. First off, what even was redlining? Started in the 1930s with the Federal Homeowners Loan Corporation, which was a New Deal agency created to help poor people refinance mortgages. It was basically basically kind of like an early credit score for those seeking mortgages. Banks and insurers would rate areas based on risk assessment. Green was very safe for investments, and red was very high risk. And red zones were risky and got fewer loans because of things like poverty, high crime, old housing, etc., but not race. It targeted people of all colors as just like this financial red flag saying like, hey, maybe it's a bad bet here. There's a scholar, John McWhorter, he called it race neutral, and there's a ton of data that backs him up. We have a ton of research proving that when all other relevant economic factors are accounted for, non-whites were not actually more likely to be red. Just look at the maps themselves. Look at Philadelphia. Red line spots were racially mixed. You had blacks and whites in there jumbled together. Look at Boston and Seattle. A lot of zones with no black people, just a lot of poor Irish people, poor Italians, Jews, all sorts of people just crammed into these slums. So actually, ethnic whites were the main targets. They were facing the same loan denials, and nationwide, 82% of people in redlined areas were white. So redlining hit struggling white people just as hard as it hit anybody else. Black people were actually disproportionately favored as loan recipients even from the very beginning. During redlining's peak from the 1930s to the 1960s, home loans to black people actually increased relative to white people. Federal data shows black home ownership rose from 15% in 1940 to 42% by 1960, which was faster than the national trends. You wouldn't see that if the government were going out of its way to prevent black people from getting loans. In fact, it seems to have been the case that the government was going out of its way to get black people loans. And this whole myth is, of course, just grown in the wake of the civil rights era, and it's still weaponized to push for reparations, increase white guilt, but the facts don't lie. Redlining was maybe too general, sure, but it was class-based. It wasn't race-based. It explained urban poverty across all groups. Also, redlining was formally outlawed like 60 years ago, and it would seem that the behaviors that were making these neighborhoods red, risky, those behaviors really haven't changed too much. So maybe if you want property values to increase, you should just focus a little bit more on that, not on blaming everybody else and calling us racist. I love the truth, and I love the black people.
So, like, this video is interesting because, like, I feel there's something...
I had a debate on that, actually.
Okay,
With Fanatic. So, that guy in the video, he's right. But at the same time, he also reinforced why there is a bias, too. Because a lot of people in the government and in banking are trying to protect their industry. So there's a bias against black people. But it still is racist because... I'll put it like this, right? So, we have to represent ourselves in a way where people don't feel the need to be racist against us. Like, if black people steal so fucking much, people wouldn't look at you when you come into 7-Eleven and, like, always look at the cameras if you're black. But it's also unfair because, like, me and you are good people and we have to be, like...
And for someone to look at me and think that I'm going to fuck them and have them be a single mother, like, I know what you mean. Like, it's ridiculous. Every black person I got to go... That would suck ass at life. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you look at every black person, he's going to steal my purse, he's going to beat the shit out of me. That's an unhealthy way of living. You know what I mean? Yeah, so...
And, I know in the 1930s, the federal government's Home Owners Loan Corporation, the HOLC, you should really talk to Fanatic because he knows more about this because he's a, what is it, remunerationist and a reparationist. So he's going to obviously have more black grievances in his head and know how to
make an argument
why black people should be paid. But me, that was never really my stance. I kind of learned everything I've learned from debating with people like that. But obviously, if I'm debating them, they, you know, have something that I'm debating, and that something that they have is like more of a, you know, mindset that's geared towards asking for something that they feel like was stolen from them, and they bring up like family issues and things like that. But I know there were residential security maps for many cities, neighborhoods that notoriously had large black populations. They were marked as risky. They received lower grades. And historians just called it redlining. And I think it was like specifically tied within the government before it was within the banks originally. Like that's how it started. So there were like these government underwriting manuals from that era that explicitly warned against race mixing, and it viewed racially integrated neighborhoods as less desirable. Many suburbs, they used racially restrictive covenants, legal agreements that prohibited homes from being sold to black buyers. I mean, like, if we're being honest, segregation and racial policies and redlining definitely happened at that time period. I mean, there's really no way to argue against that. But I'll say, if we're talking about it nowadays, it's a little different. And I'll say that racism isn't as vacuous as it used to be. Because back then, it was like let's be honest, there was some fucked up shit going on back then. And black people as I've come to understand it. Maybe I'll update my stance in the future, but a lot of black people were just trying to get by. They were just trying to do their own thing. So at that time, it was obviously a very dark and grim history. But for nowadays, it's a little bit of both. It's like upholding those systems slightly, but it's also black people negatively contributing to those biases that exist. You know, we're contributing to certain lending policies, and now there are like lawsuits against certain famous banks. I forgot which one he said. Oh, Federal Credit Union, in particular. They were sued because they were denying black people acquisitions loans. But a big reason is also because black people were seen as less reliable. And Fanatic brought up a good point. He said, if my credit score is 800 and I'm showing this ability to pay back loans, then the deciding and determining factor should not be race. It should just go based off this credit. So why is there a disparity within the control group? And that was a great point he brought up. And I said there's still, despite that, you're 100% right. It should go based off that, but it's not going to 100% of the time because, unfortunately, a lot of black people don't fit into that category. So it's not just gonna cleanly work itself out like that, unfortunately, and it sucks. It really sucks.
It's a shitty reality, yeah.
Yeah.
It all starts with the improvement of the community. And it really does suck because, like, I looked at that, I'm like, because it shows black people as the victim. It wasn't always the case the black person was the victim, but there were moments in history where the black person was the victim. You know what I mean? I'm not going to ignore that, but I think my problem is when people act as if black people were the only ones to suffer and disregard everyone else's history. I think that's something that really pisses me off. But, I mean, like, I'm not going to ignore these issues, but in a way, even segregation, I don't think segregation or integration should be forced because we look at how both played out. Could you argue that black people were, in a way, better off back then? I mean, higher nuclear family, more educated, made smarter choices with money. A lot more of them were going to college and high school. A lot of them were, I'd argue, black entrepreneurship was highly, like, pushed in black communities compared to now, in a way.
A lot of people make that comparison. I don't know if I would say that's a false equivalence or not, because they just so happen to be segregated at the time. I don't know if you can necessarily say, well, inherently as a reductio ad absurdum, this must mean that segregation is inherently good.
Oh no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I do think everybody should exist in their own sovereignty. Like I said, like if black people want to live separately and segregate themselves according to
they should have the option to do that.
I think that should be obviously a thing, but I guess I would say to answer that, I think the decline really started happening with like the drug epidemic, the crack epidemic, and the hip hop culture and the black on black deaths. And it's twofold. It's like the government or whatever, however it happened, because I know that guy, he made a video trying to debunk the war on drugs thing too. But like, let's say for the sake of argument, the black community was flooded with drugs by the CIA. I've read articles where it's like that's how it happened. Let's say that is the case. It's like, okay, you didn't have to flood these communities with drugs, but at the same time, nigga, don't pick up that pipe and smoke it.
And don't sell it to your own or kill your own over it. You know what I mean? That's what sucks too, So I do like that. It does go two ways, because I remember I saw this video about the war in Nicaragua and how drugs were smuggled up here. The CIA claimed that they weren't put in black communities, but you can't really trust the CIA. I mean, we don't know what's true and what isn't at this point. Even like when I look at the Jim Crow era, yes, black people did struggle, but I'd argue even social integration destroyed black businesses too. So it's like, it really fucking sucks. It's like there was success, but horrible things happened. But the black community, I feel, is more divided than ever. So which time period is truly better? There are negatives and positives of both eras, but it's just a sad reality, I guess.
I really like the way you think, by the way. You're very sharp. You're very smart.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. I guess I would say, with black people, I mean, there's definitely